Hi, Joy Horner here. Thoughtful Thursday from my car in a service station, waiting for the RAC to come and rescue me because I've put unleaded petrol in my diesel car. Easy mistake to make. I was in a bit of a state after rescuing a dog from the road. Dog was okay, I wasn't. Yeah, so today's topic is oxytocin and how to optimize oxytocin during birth and labour. And I think as midwives and birth professionals, we forget how important the oxytocin is in the birth room. And whether the woman's at home or in a hospital or a birth centre, it's imperative that we keep the oxytocin levels real high if birth's going to succeed, and be as straightforward as possible. Now, we all know that oxytocin is produced in the brain, in the hypothalamus. It's also apparently produced around the kidneys and the testes in men and a couple of other places in the body which I can't remember now. But yeah, it's made in random places, but mainly in the brain. And the oxytocin has a couple of effects, physiological effects, as well as the sort of emotional effects and things. So when the oxytocin is produced, it gets into the blood and it travels to wherever it needs to have an action. So that's one way that it travels. The second way is that the oxytocin actually has like a local effect on the brain. So it's produced in the brain. It can affect the brain in good ways, hopefully, and it's also released into the general systemic system. The importance of this will come clear. Okay, so when we are aroused, let's say we're aroused sexually and we look at our beloved and our pupils dilate and our skin flushes, the front of the chest can get red, and yeah, and you know how good that feels. That is oxytocin that does that. And it's really good in relationships. It promotes bonding and connection, just that feeling of oxytocin. You can get oxytocin from a hug, it doesn't have to be during lovemaking, but it's that feel-good hormone, the hormone of love primarily. And why it's essential in labour is that it's also the hormone that makes the uterus contract. It's also the hormone that helps with milk production. It's the hormone that squeezes the uterus down after birth and expels the placenta. I'm sure I've forgotten another one here, but I'm doing this off the top of my head, so forgive me if I forget what else it does. Oh, it also has a protective effect on babies' brains. Helps protect them against hypoxia, so low oxygen, the baby's own oxytocin, which I guess it produces in the same way that adults do, if it feels good and secure and maybe gets a hug from the uterus during contractions. Who knows? But yeah, it actually has a protective effect on the baby's brain, the baby's own oxytocin. Yeah, I think that'll do for that. So we know oxytocin is essential for strong, regular contractions and keeping labour going. And the way to optimise this is to have a nice, loving, peaceful environment. It's not rocket science, is it? As Ida Mae Gaskin says, the same thing that gets the baby in gets the baby out. That loving, sexy vibe. That's what's needed. And that's pretty difficult to replicate in hospital sometimes. I don't know if you've seen on the internet, there's a brilliant sketch with a couple trying to make love in a hospital environment, and doctors wanting to measure things and people telling them they're not going quick enough or they're not doing well enough. Well, the same thing happens in labour. If someone tells you that your uterus isn't working efficiently, your oxytocin might drop because you then don't feel loved up, you feel maybe a bit sad or frustrated. And we know adrenaline sort of counteracts oxytocin, not exactly, but it's the opposite of oxytocin. So if you've got adrenaline pumping through your system, you probably won't have much oxytocin. So yeah, with time schedules and people watching and people disturbing the peace in the room, people being noisy. Just imagine where you would like to make love. And I know there's a whole variety of places that people make love, but imagine trying to do it in a hospital room with bright lights, with no lock on the door, with random people that you don't know who may come in and shout, "Have you got the keys, Lynn? Can I just borrow that CTG?" You know, it's going to put you right off your stride. And it's the same in labour. The same thing can happen. What actually helps the oxytocin level remain high is peace, quiet, comfort, gentle stroking of hair or back or something nice like that. Being kind to the woman, not disturbing the woman, not engaging the rational brain. This is really important. What else? Darkness. You know, if we can have dark in the room, that's going to help as well. So all this is quite difficult to replicate in hospital. Not impossible. You know, we can do all these things. And as birth workers and birth attendants, this is what we should strive to be doing, to create this lovely, comfortable environment where women can be themselves and do whatever they need to do to get their babies out. You know, make the noises they need to make the movements they need to make without restrictions and without timing. And, you know, yeah, I don't know how we got it all so wrong. Wanting to monitor things, you know, so nothing goes wrong. If we monitor it all and manage it all, nothing will go wrong. That's bullshit. You know that's bullshit. We can't control everything. We can't stop every disease process. We can't save every baby, I'm afraid, as much as I'd like to, you know, and I strive to, you know, every midwife and every doctor strives to save every mother and every baby if there is a critical incident. But yeah, we're not gods, and it's nature, and unexpected things happen. But yeah, so in wanting to control events, we've actually put birth in a very artificial situation under the spotlights, on the monitors, and then we wonder why, you know, birth doesn't tend to go straight forward for a lot of people. Anyway, back to how it should be, and the oxytocin is flowing around the woman's system, and normally she has her baby, and then she has the highest high of oxytocin that she's going to have in her whole life. A completely unmedicated, undisturbed birth, and her oxytocin is so high. You'll see it. Again, you'll see the dilated pupils and the flush on the chest, and yeah, she looks like an absolute goddess, looks absolutely gorgeous. And all this highest of high, is so that she can then give birth to her placenta and fall in love with her baby. And I know I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again, that when the woman has given birth and her baby has come out, and she's had a moment or two to gather her wits to come back from the stars where she went to get her baby, she'll then pick her baby up, and she ought to be gazing into that baby's eyes. There should be nothing between her and that baby. So don't get in between her and the baby. Don't take the baby away. And if she glimpses at you, which hopefully she won't, because you've taken my previous advice and you're well out of sight, turn away. Don't engage her in conversation. Busy yourself with your notes, with your tidying up quietly, so as not to disturb her. Because if she locks eyes with you and she's full of that oxytocin, she's going to say, "I love you, thank you so much, I can't have done it without you," which is lovely, it's great, you know, we all like that, don't we? Job well done. But the oxytocin is not meant for you. It's there for her baby, it's there for her partner, and it's there so that she can give birth to the placenta. And this is a really, really important part. This is where we go wrong a lot of the times. Baby's out, "Oh, here's the baby!" Everyone's clicking on their cameras, you know, putting it on the internet as quickly as they can, God knows why. Yeah, there's no peace in the room. "Oh, let's see how much he weighs, you know, let's just put the labels on him." yeah, there's a lot of interference at this time. And if that woman's trying to give birth to her placenta, and there's all the interference which lowers the oxytocin, you're putting her at risk of hemorrhage and of not being able to give birth to her own placenta. So this is really, really important, that after the baby is born, mother and baby then stay together and intact. The cord isn't cut, no one touches either of them, no one speaks to them, no one bothers them, no one puts a hat on the baby, because part of this intricate process is the mother sniffing her baby, welcoming her baby. Her body then realizes that she's given birth, and the process of delivering the placenta can begin, the physiological process. So keep the oxytocin high, don't burst the oxytocin bubble after birth. And as I've said before, the highest of high of oxytocin, and I love you, and I couldn't bear to think of doing it without you, is misplaced. It is not meant for us as birth workers, as doulas, as doctors. It's not for us. It's there for the baby. It has a physiological purpose, because we need that high oxytocin so the uterus begins to clamp down and the placenta begins to separate. And then, because oxytocin's still high, the woman will push her placenta out, the uterus will contract down even more, and it will seal off all those blood vessels where the placenta was attached, and there will be much less bleeding. And there is research to back this up, really good research on physiological, I can't remember what the article is called, physiological psychoprophylaxis of the third stage or something. Basically, being nice and kind to women and not bothering them after birth reduces blood loss after birth. This is such a big thing. Sorry, my hair keeps getting up my nose and tickling me. Sure, I've missed out a lot, but that's it for today. I'm going to enjoy the sunset. I might just turn the camera around so that you can see it while I wait for the RAC. It's only been a couple of hours. It's getting dark now. Let's see if I can turn this around. Not sure. No, I don't think I can. Perhaps I can just turn it out the window here. Beautiful. The mist is gathering over the fields, looking absolutely gorgeous. And there's a petrol station behind me. Been here for hours. Hurry up, RAC. Okay, nice to see everyone, and a different topic next week on Thoughtful Thursdays. Never know what it's going to be until it pops out of my mouth. I think I've whittled on too long today, so goodbye and go well. Cheerio.